This is the Moonlight Graham Show, a freewheeling conversation with the role players, the underdogs, and guys with flat-out great stories in sports.
Hello and welcome back to the Moonlight Graham Show. Once again, I'm your host, Tim Flattery, and today on the podcast, we are talking about one of the ultimate role players in sports. Now, I'm not talking about the bench players. I'm not talking about the water boys, the ball boys, the assistant coaches. Heck, I'm not even talking about the groundskeepers. I'm talking about the people that are behind the masks, that are there to pump the crowd up every day, to give little kids hugs, to take pictures, to make your fan experience better. I am talking about the mascots. That's right. Everybody's got a favorite mascot, whether it's the Philly Fanatic, the San Diego Chicken, the Cubby Bear. And today we are talking to two of my relatives that happen to be college mascots. That's right. My Aunt Jenny Harestad was Cy, the Cyclone mascot for Iowa State back in the late 90s. My cousin Clare Flattery was TC the Cat for the UNI Panthers just a few years ago. And I got them both in studio to talk about their experiences as mascots. You know, mascots are something that have become so much a part of our sporting experience, and it's something that's so unique to sports that I thought we had to talk about it here on the Moonlight Graham Show, and we had a lot of fun. For this episode, I even brought my wife, Tori, back, and she is the co-host of this episode. So it's myself, my Aunt Jenny Harestad, my cousin Clare Flattery, and with my wife, Tori, as the trusted co-host for this episode. We had a lot of fun here. We actually recorded this pre-quarantine, so we had everybody in one room pre-quarantine, and it was fun to go back and listen to it. And I think you guys are really going to enjoy this episode. And if you like what we're doing here on the Moonlight Graham Show, we just released a new shirt that you can buy. It's a new Moonlighter shirt. Head over to our website at moonlightgrahamshow.com to pick up a brand new Moonlight Graham Show shirt. You can also subscribe to the podcast wherever it is that you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify. Subscribe to the Moonlight Graham Show, and we would love it if you left us a 5-star review. Of course, you can also follow the show on social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. We love hearing from you guys each and every week. So enjoy today's episode. It's our mascot episode with Jenny Harestad and Clare Flattery. This week's episode of the Moonlight Graham Show is brought to you by the People's Company. That's right, they are back as a sponsor because so often I hear from farmers throughout Iowa and throughout the Midwest who are listening to the podcast while they are planting, while they are harvesting. They're in their tractors, they're in their combines, which makes the People's Company a perfect partner for the Moonlight Graham Show here. As you guys probably well know, the People's Company is based in West Des Moines, Iowa, but they've really grown to be one of the nation's leading providers in land brokerage, land management, land appraisal, and investment services. These guys, and I know Andrew Zelmer and Matt Adams over there at the People's Company, these guys live and breathe farmland, farm management, and they know that industry better than anybody. So if you're looking to buy a farm, sell a farm, having an auction coming up, call the People's Company. They are the best in the business. Check them out at peoplescompany.com. Special guest tonight, special episode. I am the lone man in the Moonlight Graham Show studio right now that has a microphone. We do have my cousin Colin Flattery is another man in the studio, but Colin's not that interesting, so we will not be interviewing him. I do have 3 women with me in studio tonight. My co-host is my lovely wife, Tori, for this evening. And we have 2 Moonlighters, Clare Flattery and Jenny Harestad are our Moonlighters. And the topic of our episode today is mascots. You see, Clare and Jenny were both college mascots. Clare was TC the Cat at the University of Northern Iowa, and Jenny was Cy the mascot at Iowa State University. Yeah. And so that is the topic of this week's podcast is mascots. So I think the first question that we should ask is, Clare, Jenny, when was the first time that you thought about becoming a mascot? Clare, you want to start us off with this?
Yeah. I don't really know if I really had a thought about it. I really just saw the auditions like on the thing. And
What's
like,
the thing exactly?
What is the thing? That is a good point. I saw just like posters like digitally on like computers and laptops, and I'm just like, you know what? Like, I think I could do that. Like, I think I'd be really good at that.
So you're at UNI and you see a post, maybe like on a Facebook post or something like that said Mascot auditions next week, and you thought, that's me.
Yeah, I had a lot of like theater experience, and I was always like the slapstick, like comedy, like always a wacky, like I was never the straight man. I was always just like the funny, wacky character. And I was just like, I could really bring stuff to this. And I don't know if I like would be claustrophobic at all in the suit, but I was just like, I could try this. And I think this would be a lot of fun to just say I was that in college.
So Jenny, you were at Iowa State pre-internet. Maybe
there was no digital advertisements for my postings.
So what did you think about it first?
So, okay, so let's start out with I'm a lifelong Iowa State fan. So that's kind of the background here. But this was in 1999 where there's no Facebook, there's no iPhones, there's none of that. And I was a exercise and sports science major at Iowa State, and just in the hallway, like on the bulletin board, there was a, hey, Mascot tryouts this Saturday. There was a meeting like that Thursday night or something, and then the tryouts were actually that Saturday. And some friends we were kind of looking at it, and they were like, you should try that. Like a couple of my friends in the same major as me were like, Jenny, you should try that. And
because you had already been at Iowa State for a couple of years at this point. Was this your senior year?
No, this is my junior year.
Okay, so your junior year.
Yep. Claire, what about you? When did you try out?
So I tried out the first semester of my senior year, like I was a transfer student, so I didn't really know about it.
Claire was an Iowa Central Triton like myself.
Yeah, the smartest people were St. Ed's graduates, Iowa Central graduates, and then UNI graduates.
I say the same thing, Claire.
Colin's not there yet, but he's getting there.
He's on his way. Yeah. That's why he doesn't have a microphone
That's
yet.
why he doesn't have a microphone.
Okay, so I'm really curious. How were the tryouts? Was it what you expected? Did you have to prepare, or did you just show up and not know what you were getting into?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, there was like a meeting, and they said you need to have a skit. You need to have a skit ready to go. And I was kind of like, oh, and unlike Claire, never in theater, never did any plays. Just, I was an athlete and
a sports fanatic.
And a sports fanatic. And that's why it interests me, because I just wanted to be able to be on the field, basically, and watch the games and cheer for the Cyclones. So I was a little nervous about the skit part. I was like, I don't know if I can do that. So I had one of my roommates help me, like, put together a skit, because she was more creative and artsy. And we did Cy for president. Cy's running for president. And she made me signs, and we had little kind of little skits like, Cy, why should Cy run for president? And it was like, because Cy is a role model citizen, and I would throw away a Hawkeye shirt.
Oh.
And then Cy was a professional athlete, and I had to, because we were at Hilton Coliseum, and I dribbled down the court and
made a layup or something.
I made the layup, yeah. and that was when I knew I was going to get it. By the way. I was like, okay, this is a shoo-in. And then basically, yeah. So the skit part, I got some help from that. And
do they give you any direction on the skit? Like, hey, it's got to be this length. Here's generally what we're looking for.
I can't really remember. This is 20 years ago. But I did the length of You Can't Touch This, because I had MC Hammer's You Can't Touch This was the song. And I was like, that's just going to be the length. And for the last however much I have after these signs are through and I do my thing, I'm just going to do the Running Man and dance. So.
So before you even try out, are there requirements? Like, do you have to be a certain size, or what is that like?
So with mine, like the online application, because I'm a millennial and we had online applications.
Of course, Claire.
It said like, it said mascot tryouts. It didn't say who. So at UNI, we have two mascots. We have TK, the kitten, and then TK's brother, TC, the cat. Very, very popular.
So I want to halt you right there, Claire, because when I was at UNI, I had heard a rumor that TC originally got his name from UNI originally being Iowa's Teachers College. So the TC actually stood for Teachers College, not just the cat. And I thought, you know what? That's a lot more profound, and that has a lot more meaning to it than just the cat.
Well, like I like looked up research about this. His name was originally like Peppy Panther or something like that, like back in like the 30s. And then for like a brief stint in like the 1960s, we had the Pink Panther, like that cartoon.
Of course,
It didn't make sense, but we had the Pink Panther, and then like they changed it to TC, and apparently it was just a contest and the cat won. So
oh my gosh, it's so lame, isn't it?
Yeah, it's so lame.
And then the kitten, the cat and the kitten.
Isn't it like TC? TC is what's the Twin Cities, like what they call, like the Twins mascot is called. So I was just like, cool, same name, but
yeah, because we were at a you and I basketball game a few weeks back, and we saw a girl mascot, and I didn't know if that's what you were or.
So I wanted to. So like back to like the application, it said mascot tryouts. So I wanted to obviously be TK. And it
Who's
said,
the girl?
Who's the girl?
Okay.
Yeah. And like I thought TK would be fun because she's more sassy. And so
Because she's a girl.
because she's a girl, yeah.
Yeah,
like,
girls are
I thought
sassy.
I thought she had more personality than TC. Like, and
Because
so,
girls are more personality than guys. Is that what you're saying, Claire?
Yeah, they're just men are just stick in the muds. But I guess behind every male mascot, there's a strong woman inside.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Who's very sweaty. But
Yes.
anyway, so when I looked at the application, it said only taking TC. And I was just like, shoot, like, I don't think I'm tall enough for TC. And I look at the height requirements, and I'm 5'8", and it's 5'8" to 6'1".
Nice.
And I'm just like, man.
Made the cut.
I barely made the cut. And apparently TK is like 5 foot to 5'7". So, like, she has a wider range. And I'm just like, okay. And I was nervous that they were going to instantly, like, I wasn't going to fit the suit. So I put in lifts in my shoes. I bought lifts, like, from, like...
cheated.
I cheated completely. I wore hiking boots and lifts to, like, make myself look taller because I really wanted it.
That's great.
Yeah.
So what was your tryouts like then, Claire?
So I showed up to the Cloud Center, like our basketball arena, and like I was like the first person there. At UNI, it's like a legend. Like they say, oh, the application process is so mysterious because at UNI, no one knows who the mascots are. You reveal it at graduation, which is like a cool little tradition. And I'm just like, man, are they gonna like put me in a bag and like take me somewhere? But no, I was just like really early apparently. So like these people come out and they're just like, hey, like, are you here for the tryouts? And I'm just like, yes. Great conversation.
Yes, do I look 5'9"?
Do I look 5'9", maybe 5'10"? I put in like the tallest lifts I could. And they take me back there and they put me immediately in the suit. I'm like the first person to go. And our tryouts were literally like, it's all about improv. Like you don't have anything prepared.
Oh, wow.
So they basically see if you look good in the suit, if you can like move around and like not be awkward, and then they play music and you just have like, because at basketball games the music just plays and like you don't know what song's coming on.
Yeah.
So like you just go.
Interesting.
And, like, Cotton Eye Joe came on and I was just like, okay, here we go. And I just started doing the Cotton Eye Joe. Like I have no dance experience whatsoever. And then all of a sudden, like, these people come out of nowhere, like, who are part of, like, the security. And it's like, TC, can we get a picture with you? And so I had to, like, take a picture. And then, like, I have to go back to dancing. And then the You and I Fight song comes on. I have to go. So it's basically a 5-minute audition of just, like, madness. And they basically see if, like, I have the endurance and if I can not be awkward.
When did TK come into the mix? I graduated in 2008, and TK was not even a glint in her mother's eye at that point.
She came in like I want to say like 2010. Yeah. Like
And it was just about equality or what?
I guess so. I don't know. It's really fun to have a second mascot because I wouldn't be by myself. It's really awkward sometimes. No one wants to talk to you or interact with the mascot. So like having someone there to just like, I basically would start fights with my sister during basketball games.
So Jenny, I want to ask you about this because famously, Cy used to have a sidekick.
Yeah, little clone, yeah.
Clone. I believe I was at the basketball game when Clone was born.
I remember you talking about that.
And that was like, it must have been in the early 90s. But
Yep,
Clone, I don't think was around when you were there.
It was not around when I was there, no. I think they got rid of Clone when they had the logo change.
So the McCarney era.
The McCarney era with the fighting side, the logo change.
So like 96 or so?
I think so, yeah. because there was just one Cy when I was there. Yeah, there was no clone.
Claire mentioned it. There was height restrictions and size restrictions to TC and TK. Was there any of that with Cy?
None. No height. No, because I'm 5'4",
You're
so
5'4".
I wouldn't have cut the mustard at you and I would have had to have.
You would have been the kitten.
Yeah, right, exactly. So I'm 5'4", and actually 4 people made it the year I got it, and the other girl, she was like about the same height as me, and we shared the same suit. And then two guys, one was 6 foot average size, one was 6'7".
Ooh.
We had a 6'7" Cy, and his like almost didn't, like the suit they had for him, it almost didn't look really right because it was almost too small for him. But he was pretty cool because Jason was his name, and he could dunk. So he would dunk at the basketball games sometimes. So some people might remember
That's a
tall
big
Cy.
hit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if your mascot's dunking without a trampoline, that's pretty big time.
He was good. Yeah, he was good.
So how many mascots are there at one time then?
So when the years that I did it, it was 4.
Okay.
There was 4 of us, yes, because I don't know about you and I, but like we had a meeting like every week about, okay, you're doing this event, you're doing this game, because it wasn't just like men's basketball, women's basketball, football. You think of those because they're on TV and everybody watches those, but we had to do all the Olympic sports. We had to do like a business would be opening in Ames, and they want Cy there.
A ribbon cutting or something like that.
Had to do a lot of those. Sometimes just like special parties for like big donors or something like that would want Cy there.
What about like people's weddings? Did you ever have to show up to somebody's wedding or something? Claire, you did?
Yeah.
Not me, but yeah.
Yeah. I showed up to a wedding during Christmas break.
Were you invited?
We were so the couple just graduated from UNI, and the woman was TC. So she wanted us to specifically bring TC's paws so she could have a wedding picture.
That's kind of weird.
It's very weird. It's also like I hope she's not listening to this, but like she also didn't like cake, so they had donuts for like the dessert. Like they smashed.
That's okay. I can live with that.
Okay,
I can live with that.
But
I think like don't wear the paws on your feet on your wedding day.
Well, she it was for a picture. I don't think she walked down the aisle.
We don't know though.
We don't know.
We don't know.
Not sure.
Well, so you mentioned the TC's paws.
Yeah.
And I want to hear more about that, but the larger question that I want to open up to both Jenny and Claire here is, what were the unique characteristics of Cy or TC that made Cy or TC unique to any other mascot that was out there? Were there any for Cy, or were there like rules to being Cy?
Well, I mean, we had a few rules. You couldn't. I mean, this is probably universally mascot, but you couldn't talk to the fans. You could not use your voice. You had a same signature if people wanted autographs. You had to learn the signature.
Ooh.
Other than that, I mean, it was a lot of just, you got to interact with people. Like Claire said, you got to be enthusiastic and
working
fun.
the aisles, finding the kids.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Or the people who don't want to talk to you and just messing with them.
Right.
What about TC then?
So definitely, I would say one of the unique things with TC was definitely having 2 mascots, especially for like how small of a school we were. I think TK also came around because TC, like when he is, so if the person inside is 6'1", like with the head, they're probably like 6'4". So I think another reason is that TC was scaring kids because like, he has like open mouth fangs and like all this stuff. And when a kid looks
he's a predator. He's a natural predator.
Yeah, he's a natural predator. He is an alpha male. Like, so like I think TK came around because like, since she was so much shorter, like it helped little kids. Like little kids usually ran to TK, but
interesting.
But like TC's like characteristics, I always had to head bob. Like if you ever watch him, like he always head bobs. I don't know why that is a thing, but like that's like his thing. And also, so TK always had to have her hands like sassy pose. Like basically like I'm a girl, like hands at her sides, like very like hands on the hip, hands on the sides. She was
very sexist.
Very like yeah, exactly. But
very traditional.
Yeah, TC
roles.
had to skip that instead of walking. I don't know if you paid attention. Hopefully he was skipping. Some of them are lazy and don't want to skip, but like they like teach you how to properly TC skip like once you get the role. And
then the feet thing.
Yeah.
So the feet thing and the fact that it's a secret at UNI, I think is extremely unique because Claire, we're first cousins.
We're first cousins, yeah.
And I did not know you were TC until maybe a week before your graduation.
I'm surprised my mom kept it for that long.
Yes,
Yeah.
and it was a complete secret. So what is the history behind that?
I don't really know what the history is. Basically, it's a fun guessing game for students.
Yeah.
Because like you and I, we only have what, like 12,000 students or something,
Around
maybe.
there.
Yeah.
It's gone down a little bit since I left.
Probably in the 10,000s. Yeah, ever since Tim left, we just in the baseball program. Let's not get started on that. But yeah, so it's just like a fun game, like because most of the time, like you and I, we're so small that like everyone kind of does everything. So it's fun for students to be like a lot of people would run up to me and like, "Hello, Douglas," and I'm just like, "Who's Douglas?" But like they're trying to see if Douglas is inside the head.
So did anybody guess, like, why aren't you ever going to the basketball games with me, Claire? You know, like, that's interesting to me.
You and I basketball games, at least last year, were not that popular. I think this year they've definitely come around, but not many people were there. But the pep band was probably the worst at like trying to interrogate you because they're always there and that's like their main thing. And like I will say, a lot of people who are on Team TC, Team TK, which is the mascots, a lot of people were in the pep band, so like it's just like a big thing for them since they're always around us to like try to figure it out. But yeah.
So who knew?
So for me, I didn't tell my roommates because I thought it was fun. Like it was basically like I was Peter Parker's Spider-Man. Like I'd come home like very sweaty and just like they didn't care. They didn't have like any concern with us.
Working out a lot.
Yeah. So I told my parents at Community Pizza in Fort Dodge, and my grandpa Larry was right there, so he heard. And then I told Colin, and I think that was it. Yeah. Yeah, I told Colin.
So you keep it a secret, but then the reveal is at graduation.
It's at graduation.
And I think that is so cool.
It's so awesome, and people get so mad.
So
at
you wear the paws, you wear the feet at graduation,
Yeah.
and that's how you reveal it.
And it's so nice because I didn't have to like wear heels or anything. Like I literally, they're not comfortable, but they were. It was, everyone's so mad at you. I remember the year before I graduated, our student body president Jamal White, he was TC, and everyone was like floored because he was in so much stuff, and people were just like, "How did you have time to be TC?" Like Jenny was saying, you do a lot of events, but luckily there's like a whole bunch of people who can split it up. So I didn't really do much athletic events. I did mostly like the community stuff. Like I would go to pizza events, I go to weddings, I go to little kids dances and stuff like that. Yeah.
So, Jenny, I have a question. Yep. You obviously are a huge Iowa State fan.
Yes.
Actually, the first time I ever met the Flattery and Nielsen family was at your birthday.
Yep.
It was your birthday party, and I'm in the car, never met the family yet, and Tim turns to me and is like, "Just so you know, my Aunt Jenny is the biggest Iowa State fan you'll ever meet." And I'm a Hawkeye. I went to Iowa.
Yeah.
I'm freaking out. I'm like, oh my gosh, this woman's going to hate me. Sure enough, I walk in. Everyone's in their Iowa State gear, and it was a blast. But as you mentioned, one of the rules is you cannot talk. So
Yeah.
I can't even picture you at a game, like a huge game that gets intense. Did you ever slip up and like talk or yell or want to scream?
I'm sure I yelled.
Yeah.
I'm definitely sure I yelled. But yeah, you have to stop yourself. You have to stop yourself when you're interacting with fans not to talk to them. And definitely and we always kind of would make a joke too, like, oh, this time I'm not going to smile once when I'm getting my picture taken as Cy, because you just even though your face is covered, you're like, your instant reaction is to smile.
Yeah, you definitely smile with every picture. It's so weird.
But it is hard not to, not to talk to people.
Or even be engaged with the game because you can't really watch the whole game.
Yeah.
Right?
And that yeah. So that was hard for me because that was one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to do it. Is so I could just get, really good access to games and stuff, but because you can't see very good through your mask really, but it was still fun to be that close to the action, and lots of fun.
I remember during halftime I'd go back and to our locker room and take off my head and be like, "Are we winning?" I have no idea what the score is. Nothing.
Really?
Yeah. Well, I tried on Sai's head actually, and Sai's head, like the teeth. I don't know if it
You
was.
see through the
You can
teeth.
see through the whole mouth, and Sai has like a very big mouth,
Yep.
and TC does not. TC has about an iPhone amount of vision, like maybe an iPhone 10.
Oh,
Like-
iPhone 10.
So TK actually has better vision. She can see a lot better than me. But like, so if you ever see TC, he's probably around the security, and TK can be more roaming. But like, I couldn't see anything. And have you been to the steps in McLeod? Like,
Yes.
they're very angled and stuff. Going down that with big paws is so hard. It's so hard.
So we're on the topic now. Let's talk about wearing the suit. Because I think the number one question that everybody has is how sweaty, how bad does that suit smell?
Bad. August football games are the worst because it is like 100 degrees, and so the suit is not just what you see. Inside of it, you have like a big umpire chest guard thing to make you puff up more, so they don't like see the shape of your body, basically. So you have that on. And then the suit, which is fur, basically. And then the shoes are like snow boots. Were yours snow boots?
I don't even know how to. They were just paws that I had to Velcro.
Like slippers or something?
Basically, like slippers that I had to Velcro like fasten onto my shoes that I would wear in them. No one ever went barefoot in them, but yeah.
So was there only one suit, or were there multiple?
So when I did it, there was two suits. So me and the other girl, Tammy, we shared the smaller suit, and then the guys shared the bigger suit.
Do they get a new suit every year, or is it?
I don't know if they do. I don't think so.
Yeah.
I know they dry clean them. They would dry clean them because a couple times I actually had to take it to the dry cleaners, and but it wasn't like they dry cleaned it after every use though either.
Yeah.
Definitely not. Yeah. So we didn't have like the umpire padding. The padding was built into the suit at this point. And like it was like instant muscles for me, which was cool and weird. So we also had two suits, but the problem was the older suit was worse. So we had 3 TCs including me who did it regularly, but we had 5 total. And everyone would wear the same suit just because we didn't like the other one. And if like one guy would do an event in the morning, I tend to wear the other suit, but like sometimes that suit was just so bad that like you had to bear it and just put on
So
the
the
same
question
suit.
then is, was there ever a time where you're just dreading to put that suit on because
You wanted-
somebody else
yeah.
had been in it and
Yes.
it's sweaty and it stinks?
You wanted to get, for football games for us, because we would all do a quarter. One person would do pregame and tailgate and first quarter. You wanted to be that person because you would get a fresh, not sweaty suit. But if you had second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter, you're wearing somebody else's.
Corona.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
Yeah. I think for football, I didn't do football, but I think for football they had one guy in the first half and one guy in the second half. Thank God. But like, yeah, it was not fun because also with TC, like Sai doesn't wear clothes; he just wears a suit, right?
Yeah.
So like TC would have to wear the suit, and then like I'd have to pick out my outfit for the day.
Yeah, I was always.
Yeah.
Why does TC have to wear like the uniform or
I
whatever
don't-
too? It's so weird.
I don't know. But like seeing him like quote unquote naked is also weird, and I don't know. Like,
Well, yeah.
Yeah, after you've seen him with clothes on.
Well,
Yeah,
and
true.
Sai has changed since I was Sai. It was just like a bird, but now like for football games, he has a football uniform on. He has the pants and a football jersey, and now he has shorts and a basketball jersey on. And if you look at pictures when I was Sai, it was just the bird part.
Naked Sai.
It was naked Sai. Yep.
Naked
That's what it
Sai.
was.
Jenny, have you ever noticed throughout the years also just how Sai presents himself? Has that changed also? or
Yeah,
has it been
I
pretty
feel like
consistent?
Sai is more like kind of tough and a little more like more legit, I guess, in terms of like I would just run around and wave my arms and
Yeah.
whatever. But now I feel like they're a little more polished. So I don't know.
That brings up a good point.
Yeah.
Do you guys find yourself when you're at a game watching a mascot, like how a mascot is carrying themselves or interacting with fans?
And I would
Absolutely, yeah.
I would say, like, especially the last few years, like when you're done being a mascot. Well, while you're a mascot, anytime you're watching any sport event, you're like, what's the mascot doing? You know, I got to pick up some tips and what's going on here. And then after you're a mascot, like just watching on TV and watching games, you're like, you watch the mascot. Now it's been enough that I don't really think about it as much, but you definitely watch the mascot more.
Yeah. Well, for me in particular, like filming this, I'm fresh off a plane coming from working at Disney World, where I was always around like characters, like
Mascots.
Yeah.
You don't call Mickey Mouse a mascot, but
The princesses.
the princesses.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I like had that for about a year, and I think especially me right now, I can be like, well, you know, he's not really trying right now, or like. Mickey's bringing it his all today. You know? So that's kind of weird for me because I think I'm stuck paying attention to that for like the rest of my life now.
One of my favorite parts when you go to like a football game, especially, and this happens mostly during football games, is when you see like the mascot battles, right? You'll see like Cy versus Herky, and they'll be fighting, or one of them will get duct taped to a goalpost.
Yep.
So were you guys ever involved in one of those fights? And what are is that like WWE wrestling? Like, are they planned? Like, how does that work? Because you never want to admit that, like, you can duct tape me to a goalpost.
So, like when we did the football games, we would always meet with the mascot from the visiting team beforehand.
Sleeping
like,
with the enemy.
We would always meet with them beforehand and discuss what we were going to do. Like if we wanted to have a little interaction after the first quarter and what end zone were we going to meet up and do. So we would talk with them and meet with them. And like, I remember when Texas was in town, I was like, you know, hey, Texas mascot, Bevo, I'm going to rope you up after the first quarter. So be over in this end zone, you know, and they, you know, you just do it. If you're at the opposing school's field, you'll do it.
You let them handle you like that.
Yeah, you let them do it, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, you do meet with them and you talk with them, and
yeah.
Claire, were you ever part of that?
I wasn't a part of it for athletic events, but I did have like some interactions with mascots in like weird circumstances. Like we had.
Can you explain?
Yeah, the weirdest one. So I had to go to a Black Hawk hockey game, and it was, I can't remember the Black Hawk mascot name, but it was his birthday, and they brought him out a cake and like on the ice and all this stuff. And first of all, that mascot talked, which was weird.
What?
Yeah, but
that's like number one rule.
Yeah,
of mascot is
amateur hour.
Yeah.
Amateur hour.
Talk.
Yeah, he talked, which scared me. But he didn't come over and introduce us. But the weirdest part was, because it was his birthday, they had all the local mascots from everything come and play a game of hockey on the ice. And I probably have a video of me like falling on my butt. Like it was so bad because it wasn't just like athletics. So like me and TK were the most famous ones for local Waterloo district.
Oh, well, you also had Buck from the Waterloo Bucks.
The Waterloo Bucks.
He's got his own baseball card right over here.
We have we had the Lion from like the local like basketball team. He was there. I knocked him over on accident. But the weirdest one we had like the Culver snow cone. So this person had no arms and was like walking around on the ice and just getting.
How many times did she fall?
Oh, he got taken down a ton. It was so weird. It was the weirdest thing I've ever been through. And like. The Black Hawk mascot actually had skates on, and he actually had a puck and like all this stuff. So he was killing us. Like it was all of us versus him.
How long did this game go?
It went on during like the whole halftime, and then they brought him out a cake and like wished him a happy birthday. It was a legit cake and like all this stuff, and I'm just like, this is so weird. This is so weird.
I do have a story about when mascot did break protocol and didn't follow the rules.
Oh boy!
So
this is what we're here for, Jenny.
Yes.
So I was at the game at Mizzou when Mizzou was still in the Big 12, and their tiger was, I think it's Truman. I think their mascot.
Oh, named after Harry S. Truman, who's a Missourian.
And so I met with him before the game, and he said, you know, is it all right if I throw you up against the goalpost at the end of the first quarter. Usually first quarter is when we do these things, okay? So I was like, yeah, sure. And he goes, and my only other thing I'm going to say to you is stay in your area. I'm serious. Stay in your area because the fans at Missouri are brutal, okay?
Oh,
so I was like, all right, whatever, you know? So we did our skit. Everything was good there. This game was amazing, though. Iowa State, if you know Iowa State football, not a great history, especially back in 1999. And Iowa State was winning, and they pulled away in the fourth quarter. It was Iowa State's first Big 12 road victory ever in the Big 12 conference.
Oh, my gosh.
Okay? So when we're up, and I can't remember the score, but I know we were up, and the game was pretty much put away. And I was telling some of the cheerleaders and stuff, I'm like, I'm going to start walking around. I'm like, I'm going to do this. I'm like, this, you know.
Like in front of their student section?
I'm the whole stadium. I'm going to start walking around. Because normally, like she said, just stay in your section, you know. Stay by the cheerleaders and the little Iowa State section.
You're going to start taunting.
So I walked around the whole stadium,
boy.
and I got really yelled at
Harassed?
and stuff thrown at me. And
my
then
gosh.
Truman, the tiger, he actually kind of started running towards me, and we had a little chase, and this was like legit. I was kind of running away from him at that point, and he did tackle me, and it was not planned.
Oh, wow.
Man.
So, yeah, that was pretty funny. But I didn't care because I was so excited that Iowa State won. And being the big Iowa State fan, I definitely knew what happened there. And ex-Moonlighter Sage Rosenfels was the quarterback in that game.
Once a Moonlighter, always a Moonlighter. He's not an ex-Moonlighter. He is a Moonlighter.
Yes.
I want to say like another story. You kind of mentioned like how hot it got in. The best time to be the mascot was in the middle of winter when it was snowing, because like it just felt great. Like it felt so great. Like you were basically in like a big like huge coat. And I remember going. So like you and I's wrestling arena is basically like a high school
West Gym.
Yeah, West Gym. And like the wrestling team loves it, but like mascots hate it. Like,
Because it's so hot.
it's so hot. And I remember like you and I beat Iowa State last year, and I was the mascot at that game, and it was awesome. And like I don't really remember what happened.
It's called a duel, Claire.
It's called a duel. Thank you. Huge wrestling fan here. But afterwards, like I remember me and TK and our security like got out of there before like madness, like everyone else was storming out, and we just started having a giant snowball fight like in the middle of like the campanile, and like my security just like pushed me into the snow and just like kept tackling me into the snow, and it felt great. Like like I was dying in that West Gym, so I was just like this is the greatest thing ever.
Nice.
What's the toughest part about being a mascot?
I mean, I'd say physically it's exhausting. I mean, like especially when it's hot out, and I just remember being really exhausted. I probably had kind of dehydration sometimes.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, just sweating a lot, and other than that, it was a little time consuming. I mean, you're not getting a scholarship for it, you know. You're not getting paid for it.
Yeah.
It's really for the love of the school and you know
The attention.
Yeah.
and I like attention.
It's all about the attention, man.
Everybody knew
Yeah.
that I was the mascot, whereas Claire had to hold it in. No, I told everybody.
Oh, I didn't. I wanted the attention afterwards for people to be mad at me, but
I wouldn't have been able to hold it in. I don't know how you did that.
Oh man, it was so fun not to tell people. Like I remember my password for getting it, like because I'm a millennial and I had like a computer password. I had my password was to log into my UNI account was Clare is TC. Like,
That's great.
Clare is TC Panther. Like I wanted to get caught.
You just felt so sneaky every time you typed that in.
Yeah,
too.
it was great. But I definitely agree. It was very exhausting, and like the worst part is like you want to be like 110 the whole time, but you honestly it's takes so much out of you, especially after after a full like basketball game or something like that.
You
It's
are
just
exhausted
it's
afterwards.
exhausting,
Yep.
and then you have to like go do homework and stuff like that. And just like, man, why am I not getting paid for this?
What's the best part about being a mascot?
I mean, the attention. The attention.
I can tell you're related to Tim.
Yeah. I kind of just thought it was cool getting some gear. Like I was
You get some swag.
We got some swag. I may have gotten a little more swag than I was supposed to in terms of taking things.
Yeah, you hooked up Andy and I with a bunch of stuff, I remember. You got us on the sidelines one game, too.
Yep. That was fun. Just the experience of it. I mean, what we talked about is probably the best part for sure.
Claire Bear?
I would say, like, for any road trip, like, it was comped. Like, hotels were comped. Like, I didn't have to pay for meals or anything. So that was cool. That was, like, basically the payment. But I'd also say, like, the kids were great. Little kids who, like, didn't probably know who you were, but just wanted to, like, hug you and just take a picture with you. It was great. That was the best feeling in the world. It was like making a kid happy or like making them laugh. Yeah.
Did you guys ever get close with the players at all, or did they know who you were?
I mean, a lot of them, I don't think they know. I was in exercise and sports science, and a lot of athletes were too. So in my major, I knew a lot of athletes because of that, and then they knew I was Psi just because I knew them.
Yeah.
So, but otherwise, you don't really have interactions with the athletes during the games. I mean,
I would say I didn't really necessarily get close to the cheerleaders, but like the cheerleaders like knew who I was, and so it was like they could probably tell like who was TC that day just from the height difference and all that. But yeah, like the cheerleaders were like kind of had your back during those games because they kind of had to watch you.
Jenny and Claire, as you guys know, because you're both gigantic fans of the Moonlight Graham Show,
Yeah.
yes.
the way we end every episode of the podcast is with the 5 big questions. And so the first of today's 5 big questions, which are unique because this is a unique episode. And the first is, who is the best mascot in sports today? And you can't say Psi or TC. But as you guys watch sports, and Jenny, I know you probably watch more sports than Claire, but as you watch sports, who is the best mascot? And while you guys ponder it, because I did not prep you with these questions, you know, some of my favorite mascots are like the Philly Fanatic for the Philadelphia Phillies is so great. Orbit, which is essentially like the younger brother of the Philly Fanatic, Orbit's with the Houston Astros, is a great mascot. We had mentioned TC the Bear with the Twins. Kind of an average mascot.
Very average.
Baseball is full of them because baseball is a great sport that has like you can walk the aisles. There's always a lot of kids at baseball games. Football doesn't have as many because it's mostly like drunk 50-year-olds that are at the games. Basketball, I think the most famous basketball mascot I could think of was the Phoenix Suns gorilla.
Oh, the dunk, yeah.
Yeah, because he was the
Dunker,
first one that like really was dunking off trampolines and stuff, was the gorilla. But I mean, you guys are the mascot experts here. So who is the best mascot in sports?
Oh, man.
And there's also, I guess, you know, Colin's sitting here with the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. You have to, the Notre Dame Leprechaun is a pretty famous mascot as well.
First of all, how I distinguish a mascot is if they're in full costume. So the mascots, like I think Kansas State.
Kansas
State's just ahead, and then normal body. That you are the worst.
He looks so. His name is Willie the Wildcat. Willie the Wildcat.
Yep. So he's the worst. I guess the one that popped in my head when you started talking about it was the San Diego Chicken. Because that guy was like not for a team, like just he would go around and go to minor league games mostly, and I mean that guy made a career out of being a mascot.
He was a huge deal. I think he might have just retired. I'm not sure if the San Diego Chicken's still around, but like you're right.
Yep.
People would go to baseball stadiums
Just
to
'cause he was gonna
see
be there.
the San Diego Chicken.
Yep.
Yeah, I was gonna say the Philly Fanatic before. I just always like think about that one.
The
with,
way
like,
he uses his belly.
his belly, and like the Michael Jackson videos, and like getting the security to do that. Those are awesome.
And to that point, with Orbit too.
Yeah.
The Houston Astros one. My absolute favorite thing of Orbit, and I watch this every week, is like Orbit's one of those mascots that has a uniform. He wears a Houston Astros jersey, and I think he's got little tiny shorts that he wears too, like orange shorts. And there's videos videos of him streaking. And so like there's this video of him that like in between innings of a baseball game, he has taken his jersey off, he's taken his shorts off, and he is running around the baseball field like a streaker. And it is just so funny because it's a mascot, but it feels so wrong.
Right.
I like the ones that come to mind. I think about he's not technically a mascot in Jenny's definition, but like I always thought about the Vikings mascot, their old mascot, the one that would just the guy who would just come out like
he'd run in a Harley.
Yeah, he'd ride out in a Harley.
That's
Like
badass.
he just did it because he looked like a Viking, I guess.
He like had a contract dispute with the Vikings, and he wanted too much money, and so he's not around anymore.
Yeah, he's not around anymore. And I met the new mascot at a certain thing, and yeah, people hate him. The new guy, I don't.
Yeah,
remember.
the old guy was awesome.
Yeah.
And he was just like a guy that like he lived in St. Paul and
and looked like a Viking. Yeah. He looked the part.
So, second question of the 5 big questions. What's like the biggest takeaway from being a mascot that you've been able to translate in your post mascot life?
I would say like don't really take life too seriously, like, and always, if you think about trying something, just why not try it? Like, you never know what can come of it. Like, I would say that being the mascot obviously led me to working for Disney and working in that particular thing, and it's all because I was just like, why not just go to this audition and see what happens? It can't hurt to try something new. Mm-hmm.
That's really good. Yeah, because I would say for me it was something that is my whole life after I did it. It's a good conversation piece. Like for
great icebreaker, yeah.
For a while I don't have it anymore, but I used to be on my resume, and that was something that like you can always talk about with people and they find interesting. So just the experience of it is something that, I can always talk about with people and they find interesting, and just cool thing that you say you did one time.
So, third question. What is or who is like the most ideal mascot? If you could play another mascot or be another mascot or character, who would you be? And I'm going to open this up because, Claire, you're unique. You just got back from Florida.
You're so unique, Claire.
And
so
you worked
unique.
you were exposed to so many different characters. So I'm going to open that up. So you can pick any Disney character. It could be a sports mascot. But just curious, who would you want to play if you could?
I think I'd still want to be Cy.
I'm not surprised in the slightest.
Because still big Iowa State fan, still want to be in the mix at Hilton and Jack Trice. But also maybe I'm Clark from the Chicago Cubs.
Oh,
because that's my other big love of sports is the Chicago Cubs. So
the Chicago Cubs mascot is named Clark.
I think it's Clark.
Why
like
isn't it?
Clark.
I thought it was
Clark
like
and
Cubby
Addison
or
is
something.
Clark, it's on Clark and Addison. I
Yeah.
forgot about that.
He's fairly new within the last, since Ricketts took over the team. They made we need a mascot, And
It would be interesting, too, to play a different sport, like baseball.
Yeah.
To be a mascot in a baseball field.
You'd have to sign a lot of baseballs.
Yeah.
Like your autograph, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure you sign mostly footballs as Cy or basketballs,
or just
maybe
programs.
Yeah. But having to sign a baseball is a whole nother animal.
Right. Iowa State didn't have. Well, they did have baseball when I was there, but it was
The last year, maybe.
Yeah, it was about the last year. But yeah, I don't think I signed a baseball.
Claire.
You gotta. I mean, Mickey Mouse.
Yeah.
That would be awesome. I'm definitely too tall to be Mickey Mouse, but like,
What is the height requirement for Mickey Mouse?
he's like 5 foot to 5'3", I think. But just working with him all the time, you see how many people are just affected by him. Like you see like a 92-year-old woman from Brazil crying because it's been her dream to come to Disney and meet Mickey Mouse, and there he is right there. And yeah, I mean, it's a different type of feeling. Like, not many people cry. I went to meet TC, and so it's just a different experience. But if for someone in my height range, it'd probably be like Pluto or Tigger. They'd be a lot of fun. Yeah,
Of course.
yeah. Tigger would be exhausting, but he'd be a lot of fun. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Did either of you have any close calls during a game? Because a lot of times you see it, where a ball will go into the stands, or somebody dives, or somebody's tackled out of bounds and they bowl over a cheerleader, or they'll bowl over the mascot. Did that ever happen to either one of you?
I remember, so like I said before, like TC skips. And so like when you're skipping, you're not really looking down. And then all of a sudden, for some reason, I just stopped out of nowhere, and I looked down, and there's just like this toddler with her arms up, like ready to hug me. And I was like, I almost punted you across the gym here. Oh man! So like I got down on her level and like hugged her, but oh man, I was so scared. Like, yeah, how do you explain that when you kick a kid? It's so awkward. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. There was a couple times I think that my mask almost fell off, and besides when I got tackled by Truman, the Mizzou mascot, I think I might have almost lost my mask that time. And I remember one time at a wrestling meet, I was walking down like in the student section, and it was Iowa State wrestling, and Marcus Pfizer was one of the he's famous basketball player at the time for Iowa State, and he, like, the PBS cameras were there, and they were like, hey, during we want to get a shot with you with Marcus Pfizer. And I was like, yep, sure, let's do that. And then I remember when we did it, I like was walking down the stairs, and I didn't Pfizer like came and just he almost like clubbed me a little bit. And I fell over. I mean, totally fell over, and I about lost my mask at that point. And I had a bunch of friends that were at the meet, and they were like, geez, Pfizer took you out. And so that was kind of funny, but other than that.
What's the best piece of advice you would give to somebody that's looking to become a mascot?
Mm-hmm. Like, don't be afraid to go all out. Like, you might think you look stupid, but like no one really knows it's you. So like, try something, and if it doesn't work out, at least you try. Just go all out. Like, don't go half speed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. Mm-hmm. And if you can do it and you have the time in your college career to do it. I mean, some people have to work. I was lucky and I didn't have to like have a job really, besides my schoolwork and that. So it's just a great experience, and something that you can just have fun with, basically.
Mm-hmm.
What's the best event you guys were ever a part of? Like, was there one great game, like when you look back on it now, I was the mascot during that game? Or like some really memorable event where like, that was my best day as a mascot? Is there one of those that sticks out?
I mean, I would say the Iowa State game for me, because it was
football or basketball?
Football.
Did we win? Did Iowa win?
No. So this was the second, when we beat them 5 times in a row. This was the second time. So we beat them in Iowa City the year before, and then we had them back at Jack Trice. And I just remember it was a night game. It was, because we beat them, it wasn't a fluke anymore. Iowa State was kind of showing its that it can hang with the Hawkeyes. And I remember rushing the field. Everybody rushed the field after the game, and that was really cool to be a part of that.
Mm-hmm. I would definitely the duels against Iowa State that we won last year.
Followed by the snowball fight.
Yeah. But another event that like I think about wasn't sports related. Like Hy-Vee had in Des Moines like a get out and play an hour a day type of thing for like, it was like National Day of Fitness for all these like 10,000 Des Moines kids. So they had every single mascot like from all the big schools come, and we had to hang out together for a day. And so I met Cy, Herc, and Spike, and then like TK was there with me, and Herky was late.
Oh, no.
Not surprised.
Yeah, not surprising. He didn't talk to us.
Hungover.
Yeah, Herc the jerk. He was just he was late, so he didn't talk to us. Cy was great. I don't know.
Of course.
Like he was so nice. He barely came back. He was just out there the whole time because he loved it. I don't know if I can. His name was Tyler, so I called him Siler the whole day. and I told Colin about Spike. Spike is Drake's mascot. Apparently, they only have like 2 mascots. One of them is like a girl who was like exercise science person, but she couldn't make it. So it was the other guy. he was like this overweight frat boy who hadn't really done it that much. So he was barely out there. Like we had to be on like a runway type of stage, which was like very skinny and narrow. And apparently like there was like a Ninja Warrior guy from who was like an American Ninja Warrior who had just been up there, and he did like 150 push-ups. So like the crowd of kids was amped, and then like then we all had to come out and like, you know,
try to do 150 push-ups.
No, thank God. They gave us like hula hoops and stuff like that, but it was just like, you know, sigh and people go crazy, and then Herc and then people go crazy, and then it was TC and silence. It was so weird. But it was a fun time just hanging with all of them and being like, you know, what do you get? Like, oh, that's a cool backpack. You got that? It's cool. Like, or what do you think of Herc? He's not really talking to us.
No, I think that's so cool. And when you look at sport, you know, you see the teams, you see the cheerleaders, and you see the mascot, but you hardly ever think about like who is the person inside of that suit. And so I'm so glad that you guys were able to come onto the show today to tell the other side of the story. Like you were the people behind the mask. And so Jenny, Claire, thank you for coming on the Moonlight. Oh, we got one more story.
I gotta tell
I love
this
these
one.
stories. I'm enjoying
I gotta tell
this.
this one. This is my most famous Psy story.
This is more famous than the Truman incident?
It's the same. It's the same trip. So, so that trip was the first one where I got to go out of town, and I was supposed to go with the whole Spirit Squad and the cheerleaders, and I didn't want to go with them. I wanted to go with my friends. So I drove up with my friends, who included my now husband Joe. He drove us up in his car, me and 3 of my friends, and they were just all going to go to the game and watch me be Psy. And we were, you know, this is before, like, you know, you knew where, like, you can't put in your phone, oh, this is going to be 4 hours or whatever. We did not estimate how long it was going to take us to get to Columbia, Missouri. But we were running late, and we knew we had to get there by game time. And so Joe was kind of going fast, got pulled over by Highway Patrol. And I go, I'm the mascot for Iowa State. I'm going to be late for the game. And he's like, no, I don't believe you guys. Got the whole suit out in the trunk, showed him, and he let us go. No ticket.
That is
So
great.
that is one of my, you know,
Another perk of being Psy.
definitely a perk of being a mascot. You can
Claire,
get away with
you
some stuff.
got any like that?
Not well. There was one time, like, so the security had to drive me to the events and stuff.
You
And there
keep
was
talking about your security. How many people were on like security protocol?
there'd be
here?
one. There'd be so it's basically the people who wanted to be on the team but didn't want to be the mascot. So they just basically watched us, and like I said, I had like an iPhone amount of vision.
Is
So
your posse?
yeah, my posse.
I don't know if that's a political
They
correct
basically-
term anymore.
They basically
Pre 9/11,
got it.
I didn't have any security.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they were nice because they basically just drove me around. But one time we decided to like mess with the manager of like who was in charge of the whole thing. And so he like parked to the car, and I got into the driver's seat and he got into the passenger seat. And she walked out of her office and she saw that, and like we waved. Just like stupid stuff like that. It was so fun. Yeah.
That's great. Well, Jenny, Claire, Psy, TC,
Yeah.
thank you for coming on the Moonlight Graham Show.
Thank you.
It's been a lot of
Thank you
fun.
for having us.
Tori,
through,
thanks for
Tim.
being the co-host.
It's an
Happy
honor.
to be the co-host. Anytime, Tim.
Hey guys, thanks once again to listening to today's episode of the Moonlight Graham Show. And even though I do most of the interviews here on the podcast, there is a ton of work that happens behind the scenes that you guys don't see that make each episode possible. So I got to give a shout out to the Moonlight Graham Show team. First of all, Brian Sandvig, our producer. Brian does all of the post-production work, and in real life, he's not just a podcast producer, he's also a real estate agent. So if you're looking to buy or sell a home down in the Kansas or Missouri areas, give Brian Sandvig a call. Next guy on that list is Brendan Gargano. Brendan does all of our design and artwork here on the podcast. He's one of the most talented artists I've ever met, and I love all of his work. If you need any help on the design side with logos or anything like that, give Brendan Gargano a call. The next guy on that list is Andy Flattery, my older brother. Andy, of course, has done some of the interviews here on the podcast. He also is a certified financial planner. He owns a business called Simple Wealth Planning. If you need any help in that area, check Andy Flattery out. And then, of course, the trusty co-host Tom Griffin and my younger brother Neil Flattery. Those guys are just busy being husbands, being fathers, they're family men, but also they do a ton of work here on the show. So thanks again for listening. We really appreciate you guys subscribing and supporting the Moonlight Graham Show.